So I think obviously this question is like huge, and I'm gonna keep it brief, and it also relates to the fact that my example is what femininity is to me. I think that's completely relevant to where I was born, how I was raised, what privileges I've had, but also what oppressions have been forced upon me. So my femininity is gonna look so different to anybody next to me and anybody else in the room. I also think that it's often we talk about femininity and masculinity in this binary polar opposites from each other, and I want to slap that right on the head. I think for me it's this mix, but for me femininity is something that I wasn't allowed. Femininity was something that I was told I couldn't access for many reasons. Being born in a body that people were calling male, I think femininity was seen as weak, and any times I showed femininity, I was either to be bullied, harassed, or assaulted, and since then, femininity has actually been the exact opposite. So for me, I think femininity is power. Femininity is dangerous power, right? In the sense that I had a different outfit I wanted to wear today, but I didn't have time to plan my safety outfit for the tube. So in that sense, femininity can be so much power for me, in the sense that when I came here and did my makeup, I felt powerful, I felt great, I felt like I could speak in front of everyone. But also femininity is this power that I think the outside world are afraid of. And for me, femininity is something that everyone can access, but only few are allowed to safely access.
That's great, thank you. Who wants to go first?
I think femininity for myself is going to be completely different to someone else besides me. As a young Black British individual, for me it's more to do with obviously how my experiences as a woman, how I go about my daily life will be slightly different to someone of obviously of a different colour or culture. I think it's, for me it embodies obviously my certain attributes and the way in which I, present myself, but I think it goes beyond that again, as Travis was mentioning. It's more to do with certain attributes, but obviously just the way you conduct yourself in a way that shouldn't be confined or bind to obviously male or female. I think it's much bigger and much broader than that. And I think we, moving forward with fashion, it should be more about obviously the embodiments of obviously what that kind of symbolises as a woman. Doesn't have to generally mean gender-wise. It could just mean certain attributes that are associated with that.
Thank you.
Oh, you want me to?
Sure, I can say. I don't want to go last, actually. Sorry, I'm going to jump in.
Okay, go on.
No pressure. I think it's really important to know that the responses that we're giving are always situated in our personal experience and identities. And so I was thinking about when Tana and Travis were speaking was, of course, my response as well as listening to them. And I wanted to say, so I just want to reflect my hesitation, because I wanted to answer the question and say, for me, femininity is nurturing, but then I immediately sort of recoiled in my head and thinking about it, because femininity, like femaleness, are often really bound together, and then also fall into stereotypical assumptions, like femininity, female-bodied, female-identified people are supposed to be the nurturers and the carers. But in terms of my own personal experience, being raised by people who put their femininity at the front and had it was really powerful. It was also really nurturing, and it showed me how to be to sort of collect that kind of power, and so basically it raised me. And I am not read as I do identify as like a feminine type person, but I agree with Travis that it's a really difficult thing when I have to put it in that kind of sentence or that introduction, because to me there is a lot of femininity in the way that I interpret my own sense of fashion, my own identity, my own ability to relate to other people. So femininity is something that I agree, is really powerful, but also is often misunderstood and reduced, like a lot of aspects of gender and identity.
Thank you.
So most of my work is around femininity, and also my identity. I identify as femme, so I have a lot to say on the subject. Now, we managed to get some of the pictures of my work up, so you can have a look and how I explore my gender through my work. But actually, in terms of the question of what is femininity, I wrote something down because about 10 10 years ago, someone asked me this question for a magazine. So I just wrote something back then that I'm just going to read out because I think it's still relevant and how I feel about it now. So they asked me, what is feminine? What is feminine to you? Yeah, if you can just go through the images, that would be great. Okay, so people always want to know what defines gender, and I struggle between giving an answer and refusing to answer, because a refusal often means they have to consider gender more fluidly and broadly, rather than a fixed state that can be explained. Also, they have to then figure it out for themselves, which means questioning themselves and others further than they have before, which will lead them hopefully to find out more than they bargained for. That, I think, would be beneficial for people who just need simple answers to complex questions for some, or who do not even question beyond what they've been told or expect answers. I have felt comfortable with both masculinity and femininity, and uncomfortable with both at different times. I also allow both expressions and in different combinations, depending on how many different factors, like environment, mood, or safety. I don't often restrict myself to how I behave or the activities that I do because of whether they're considered masculine or feminine. I feel very much like both are meshed in me and not at all polarized as such, and I often cannot differentiate between them. I've always been told that I'm not feminine enough and then not masculine enough, sometimes that I'm not trans enough or then not genderqueer enough. So the fact that I'm not complying makes me willingly and unwillingly confused about gender and fitting into masculinity and femininity in a proper sense. I will never meet other people's ideals. So that realization is that gender is not so fixed at all. It will depend on the beholder's eyes, beliefs, opinions, and experiences as to what they consider gender to comprise of. What is masculine or feminine in my personal experience or my culture will not be in someone else's, and that is also an important consideration as it becomes a more multifaceted discussion to incorporate many factors that many people may not be aware of at first. And of course, the most dominant cultures in a given space will get to dominate what is more acceptable with gender in definition. For this reason, I make a political statement to not define what is masculine or feminine, as I feel that we're constantly being told, and really this can only be answered personally by each and every individual person in self-definition. For me, being feminine is looking to the heritage of strong Indian female role models who expressed themselves as they wanted and who were not afraid to show it to anyone. For me, masculinity means being different to all those negative male role models I had in my life, making a stand to be a different male-identified person to them, rejecting certain aspects like misogyny and introducing others like feminism and building on things I relate strongly to, like sisterhood and brotherhood.